I, 26M, am currently sitting in a private studio in Soho, sipping a vintage bourbon that costs more than my mother's monthly mortgage. On the wall in front of me is a sold certificate for a centerpiece that just went for 6 figures to a tech mogul in Singapore. My mother, 52F, is currently blowing up my phone with heart emojis and links to expensive European cruises, pretending the last 8 years of her calling me a drain on society never happened. The stage was set when I was 18. My mother is a woman who measures human worth in 2 metrics: job titles and the ability to brag at her weekly bridge club. My father passed when I was young, leaving her with a comfortable life and a pathological need for status. When I told her I was turning down a full ride for business school to attend a prestigious fine arts academy on a partial scholarship, she didn't just disagree, she declared war. The conflict escalated during my senior year of college. I was working 3 jobs to cover the gap in my tuition, while spending 18 hours a day in the studio. I asked her for help with my final gallery fees, about $2,000. "I'm not spending another dime on your finger painting hobby," she said, looking at me with a mixture of pity and disgust. "You're a failed artist, honey. You just haven't realized it yet. You're going to end up as a cautionary tale for the rest of the family." She didn't stop there. She told my aunts, my cousins, and even my late father's business partners that I was struggling with my mental health and refusing to find real work. She effectively poisoned the well, ensuring that no one in the family would offer me a couch to sleep on or a lead on a job. She wanted me to crawl back to her, admit she was right, and take a mid-level accounting job at her friend's firm. I didn't crawl. I moved into a literal closet in Brooklyn, lived on ramen and tap water, and painted until my knuckles bled. I went entirely no contact for 3 years. I missed weddings, funerals, and holidays. To her, I was a ghost. To the art world, I was starting to become a whisper. Then came the moment. My series The Architecture of Silence was picked up by a major gallery for a solo show. It was the culmination of everything she hated. Raw, unfiltered, and expensive. On opening night, the centerpiece, a massive haunting oil-on canvas, sold within 20 minutes for $100,000. The news hit the art blogs the next morning. By noon, my mother's name appeared on my caller ID for the first time in years. "Oh, my darling boy," she gushed, her voice vibrating with a sickening sweetness. "I just saw the news. I always knew that creative spark of yours would catch fire. I was telling the girls at lunch today, I always believed in my little artist." I didn't say a word. I just listened to her rewrite history in real time. But I had a dirty trick of my own prepared for the believer. 2 days after the sale, my mother didn't just call. She showed up. I was at the gallery finalizing some paperwork when the front door chimed. In she swanned, draped in a silk scarf and wearing the proud mother expression she'd been practicing in the mirror since the wire transfer cleared. "There he is," she chirped, ignoring the do not touch signs as she tried to wrap me in a hug that smelled like Chanel No. 5 in desperation. "My successful son. I've already started looking at larger apartments for you, honey. This studio of yours is so quaint. We need to find you a space that reflects your new status." I stepped back, keeping the desk between us. "My status hasn't changed, Mom. I'm the same person who asked you for $2,000 for gallery fees 3 years ago. The one you told was a cautionary tale." Her smile didn't even flicker. She's a professional at cognitive dissonance. "Oh, I was just using tough love to motivate you. I knew if I made it easy you wouldn't work as hard. I'm the reason you're this successful, really. I provided the resistance you needed to grow." The entitlement was breathtaking. She wasn't just claiming a seat at the table. She was claiming she'd built the wood it was made of. "I'm hosting a dinner on Saturday," she continued, pulling out a leather-bound planner. "I've invited the board of the local museum and some of my high-end friends. You'll bring a few smaller pieces for a private showing, of course. It's time we showed the town what a genius I raised." "I'm busy Saturday," I said. "Nonsense. This is for your career. Think of the networking." "I am thinking of the networking," I said. "That's why I've already invited a special guest to your little dinner. Someone who really appreciates your tough love philosophy." The dirty trick was simple. My mother had spent years telling everyone I was a failure to protect her own ego. Now she wanted to use my success to boost her social standing. So I contacted a freelance journalist for a major local lifestyle magazine, someone who had been asking me for an origin story interview. I told the journalist I'd give them an exclusive, but they had to come to a private dinner at my mother's house to witness the supportive environment that fostered my talent. "You're bringing a reporter?" my mother asked, her eyes lighting up with the prospect of a glossy spread. "Oh, perfect. I'll have the caterers do the lobster." She thought she was getting a tribute. She didn't realize she was getting an audit. Saturday night arrived. My mother's house was glowing, filled with the smell of expensive seafood and the sound of people who only talk in investments. I arrived with the journalist, a sharp woman named Elena who had a digital recorder and a nose for hypocrisy. My mother was in her element. She was holding a glass of champagne, standing in front of a print of my work, which she'd bought at the gallery gift shop because she couldn't afford an original, telling a group of museum donors how she used to stay up all night, helping me mix my paints. "It was a struggle," she told Elena, not realizing she was being recorded. But I never doubted him. When the world said no, his mother said yes. I even dipped into my own savings to make sure he had the best supplies. I caught Elena's eye. Elena looked at the notes I'd given her, copies of the emails my mother sent me in college, calling me a delusional parasite and a waste of DNA. "That's so inspiring," Elena said, her voice smooth as silk. "I'd love to hear more about that tough love period. I have a quote here from a family friend who says you told them your son was a failed artist who was struggling with mental health just 6 months ago. How do you reconcile that with your unwavering belief?" The silence that hit the room was heavier than oil paint. My mother's glass hit the floor. Clink. I have no idea what you're talking about," she stammered, her face turning a blotchy, uneven red. "Someone must be jealous of our bond. People are so cruel when you're in the spotlight." "Actually," I said, stepping forward, "I gave her those quotes, Mom, along with the emails where you told me to change my last name so I wouldn't embarrass you. And the voicemails where you laughed at my finger painting." The high-end friends started whispering. The museum board members looked at their watches. My mother looked at me, and for a second the mask slipped. The proud mother was gone. The status warden was back. "You're doing this to humiliate me," she hissed under her breath. "After everything I gave you? You gave me a reason to leave," I said. "And now I'm giving you exactly what you wanted. Everyone is talking about us. Just like you always wanted." The journalist didn't stop. She asked my mother about the $2,000 gallery fee I'd asked for. She asked why she blocked my number for 3 years. By the time the appetizers were cleared, the museum donors had made their excuses and vanished. They didn't want to be associated with the cautionary tale of a mother. The fallout from the dinner party was a PR disaster for my mother, but she was nothing if not persistent. 2 weeks later, I received a formal letter from a boutique law firm. She wasn't asking for an apology anymore. She was asking for 20% of my total earnings for the last 5 years as a retrospective management fee. The legal argument was that her tough love and strategic distancing were a form of unconventional career coaching that forced me to develop the grit necessary for the Soho art scene. She claimed she had curated my struggle to ensure my artistic voice was authentic. The entitlement had reached its final form. She was trying to bill me for her own cruelty. I met her at her lawyer's office. She was sitting there with a smirk, looking like she'd already spent the money. "It's a fair price," she said. "I gave you the life experiences that made your paintings valuable. Without the pain I provided, you'd just be another kid drawing trees. I'm your muse in a way." "You're not a muse," I said, sliding a folder across the table. "You're a debtor." Inside the folder wasn't a check. It was a detailed invoice of my own. I had spent the last week working with an accountant to track every single cent she had borrowed from my father's trust, money that was legally intended for my education and upkeep until I was 25, but which she had used to fund her lifestyle while I worked 3 jobs in college. You used $150,000 of my trust for home renovations and travel while I was living in a closet, I said. According to the trust's bylaws, that's a breach of fiduciary duty. I'm not paying you a management fee. I'm suing you for the return of the trust assets, plus interest, and for the emotional distress of the public defamation you engaged in to curate my struggle. Her lawyer looked at the trust documents. Then he looked at her. He didn't say a word. He just closed his briefcase. Honey, let's be reasonable, she started, her voice cracking. It's family money. We don't need lawyers. We didn't need lawyers when I was 18 either, I said. But you chose the cautionary tale route. I'm just finishing the story. The legal battle didn't last long. Once she realized that a discovery phase would involve the IRS looking at how she handled the trust money, she folded. She signed over the deed to the family home, the one she'd used my trust money to renovate, to settle the debt. I didn't move in. I'm a failed artist, remember? I don't need a suburban house with a bridge club-sized kitchen. I turned the house into a residential retreat for low-income art students. I hired a professional property manager to run it. And my mother? Part of the settlement allowed her to stay in the mother-in-law suite over the garage, provided she pays a modest rent and stays out of the main house. She's now living in the quaint space she once mocked me for having. Every day she has to watch young, talented failures walk through the doors of a house she used to own, using supplies I provide for free. She still tries to brag. I hear her talking to the delivery drivers, telling them how she founded this retreat to help the youth. She still tries to send me links to cruises. I just heart the messages and never reply. My last piece sold for $150,000. It's a portrait of her. Not the proud mother version, but the one from the dinner party, the one where the mask slipped. It's titled The Fiduciary. She hates it. But like she always said, I'm just an artist. I only paint what I see. Subscribe to find out why tough love is the worst investment strategy in history, and how to turn a cautionary tale into a real estate empire.